You're watching Life Report. Pro-life talk. Real-world answers. Life Report trains people to more effectively defend their pro-life beliefs while honestly examining the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. We're the show other pro-lifers may have warned you about. This is Life Report.
You cannot put the cat costume back on. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, admit it. It was cute.
It was cute. I mean, you looked like Pam from, what, the first Halloween episode of The
Thank
Office.
you.
Okay, now,
He
but
got it.
Yes,
He
he
got
did.
it.
No, but you have to tell last year's the woman that said she was gonna sit at a different desk. You have to tell that. This is the best Halloween story I've ever heard. The woman who's gonna
She's
sit
all
at
like,
a different
I don't know
desk.
what you're talking about.
No, she was gonna sit at a different desk, and everybody thought she was gone. And
Oh, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. No, my office has a Halloween party every year, and so that's why I showed up and freaked Josh out in my Halloween
I show
costume.
up to the studio and here's
15
Liz
minutes.
in like full the face paint and like
Yeah.
the weird ears and it was
Yeah,
just-
I was an
I
adorable
did
cat.
actually think you wanted to be on the podcast
No.
like that, and I was like, there's no way.
No, I cleaned up really well, but evidently my office is so into Halloween that last year, a gal in the office, called her boss, said, "Hey, I'm not gonna be sitting at my normal desk tomorrow." So nobody worried about her not being at her normal desk. She came as an old lady, and was so good at her costume. She's young. She's like in her early 30s or something.
Right.
That no one recognized her the entire day. She sat at a different desk. She did all her work, went and did everything, and no one knew who she was.
Nice.
That's
All
a
right.
pretty
That's
come as another person.
That's
That's pretty good.
That's pretty impressive. So needless to say, we're 2 days before Halloween when we
Yep.
tape this, and people are gonna be like, "What? This is like a month after
Yeah,
Halloween."
what are you talking
And
about?
It's just the way it goes. We're gonna talk about a viral video. This is something that literally the video's been up on YouTube for less than a week as of this taping. It's been seen now by 630,000 people.
Wow.
It's a hard video to watch, I think, especially for pro-life. Pro-choicers are really enjoying this video right now because they certainly win in this video.
Yes, they do.
And this is a hard one, I think, for pro-lifers to watch. Although some pro-lifers are responding and saying that it's fine. The pro-life women in the video didn't do anything wrong. We'll discuss it. We're not going to show
certainly
it.
could have done worse.
They could have done worse. Yeah, I've seen people do worse,
Yes,
actually.
yes.
And it was a very difficult situation that they were in. But we're going to embed and link to the video on the website. So if you haven't seen it yet, go and see it. This is the video of the dad whose wife is having an abortion, and he's confronting two female pro-life protesters that are outside the clinic. I say protesters because I think that accurately describes what they're doing. They're there with signs. According to him, they're yelling things at people that are driving in. They don't seem to have sidewalk counseling literature. They don't seem to be trying. It's not 40 Days for Life.
It's not a ministry type event.
Yeah.
It's more of a project my opinion kind of event.
It looks like that. I mean, it's hard for us to judge because I haven't talked
Right.
to the women. It's just like based on what we're
It's
hearing
very
from this guy and
one-sided.
based on taking a look at what it looks like they're doing on the video. I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. And I'm not saying it's always necessarily wrong to protest. I don't know if it's the best thing you can do outside of a clinic, but I'm not really judging that as much. But so if you haven't seen the video, watch the video before maybe watching the, because we're gonna comment and talk about what they could have done better, what you could have said if you were in that situation. But basically what happens, this happened in Brookline, Massachusetts. The man who takes the video, his name is Aaron. He actually, this is not an anonymous, he wrote a whole article about this. He's a
Right.
journalist. But he had taken his wife into this abortion facility. Their child is 16 weeks old, but after prenatal testing, they found this child has this really rare
Right.
and horrifying and fatal disability called Sirenomelia, which is otherwise known as mermaid syndrome. It's like a 1 in 100,000 thing, and the child's legs are fused together. A lot of times their organs are not functioning. Almost no chance this child is going to be born alive. If it's born alive, the child will probably not live long. There's only 3 cases where the child has lived, basically, for longer than a year or whatever.
And in his post, he did mention that his child had no developing kidneys or
Right.
liver, I believe, something like
or
that.
lung,
Or
I
lung.
think. And so,
Yeah.
it's just a really, really horrible situation. I mean, there's these things. I mean, some people don't know. There are a few. I mean, there's some disabilities like Down syndrome that it's really going to affect the child, but it's not necessarily endangering their life. Where there are
Right.
some things like anencephaly, where the child's going to be born without part of their skull and their brain. I mean, they're going to, if they're born, they're not going to live long ever. And so this is one of those really hard, extreme cases that people give for abortion, right? So if you
Right.
have this horrifying thing happen, I mean, you assume the parents, even if they wanted to have the child, they decide, well, gee, the child's going to die at birth. Why go through all that? Shouldn't we have abortion for them? And they're in this really, really agonizing state. And so what he had dropped his wife off. According to him, they yelled something at them as they drove into the clinic. That the two women, the pro-life protesters. He says they yelled, "You're killing your unborn baby." And I mean, he could have misheard. They might have said something else, but I'm just going to assume that's what they said.
At any rate, whatever they yelled, that's the meaning that he.
I've heard lots of protesters yell things like that before. So I mean, that doesn't.
That's
I mean,
reasonable.
He used the phrase "unborn baby." I mean, that might very well be what they said. So they drove in. The gals yelled that at them. They're holding signs. One of the signs you never see in the video, but he says was a graphic abortion picture. Okay. The sign that you do see that the other woman's holding is a very, very religious. I think it's a picture of Jesus, and I think on the bottom it's blurry, but it looks like it says Jesus forgives and heals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, and they're basically out on the street. They have the sign, and they're yelling, you're killing your baby, as to people going in, hoping that will maybe turn them around. Mm-hmm. And so he writes an article, and he walked his wife into the clinic. They're really distraught. He says that she was sobbing in the parking lot, partially because of what the one woman had said. He walks into the clinic. He's feeling all husbandry, all, I want to protect, chivalrous. He found out he can't be in this room during surgery. And so he goes and figures he's going to do the next best thing, which is make sure that no one else has to deal with this again. So he takes his cell phone camera and goes out and confronts the protesters. I think it would be fair to, if people that are familiar with stand to reason materials, fair to say this guy's is being a steamroller. He's not really. He's asking questions, but he's not. He's not allowing a whole lot of answer. He's yelling.
It's not a dialogue. It's
not really
monologue.
It's not really dialogue going on.
It's an attack.
Although
but it's
he does
attack out of what he sees as self-defense and righteous anger.
Yeah,
I think the vibe you get.
And that's true. And it's kind of hard because he does ask him questions and he does listen to what they say, because then he responds to what they say. So there is some of that.
To understand.
Probably not, but neither were they. Is what I'm going to say. I don't feel like they were really reacting very well to his questions. So I'm not going to play the audio, but I'll just sum up basically what happens. He comes out. He's saying, I tell you what, I just walked in with my wife. We're trying to have another kid. And you know what? 1 in 100,000 feel demise of congenital deformity. So you're yelling at my wife for doing nothing wrong and having a nearly dead baby inside her, and that's what you're going to do. And it's hard. You actually can't even hear what the women are saying, but they respond. And apparently one of them says something like, "I'm sorry," because he responds, "You're sorry? Well, then maybe you want to ask before. You're just yelling at random people and you have no idea what you're doing to them." And here's what's interesting to me. Perception is reality. I know sidewalk counselors who yell outside of abortion clinics, and they would I'm sure they would say they've got success stories, but I wonder if we would have more success stories if we don't yell. Because that is exactly what this looks like. This looks like they're just yelling at random people. Who cares what they think? Let's just throw out our thing. And I'm wondering, I'm trying to look at this from both sides. Obviously, we're pro-life. We want the baby not to be killed in an abortion. But is that tactically the best? I mean, this is coming to come up at 40 Days for Life.
Yeah, and when I saw the video, one of the things that was really interesting to me is just some of the tactics used. And I've spoken to a couple of different pregnancy care center directors, specifically to some of the client advocates at these care centers. So these are the people that are actually interacting with young women who are either abortion vulnerable, considering abortion, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And they have said that some tactics just aren't as effective, and yelling out is not as effective as a personal connection, a personal soft word, so to speak.
Right.
And being and you know, you mentioned that it's more of a monologue, but these ladies are, you know, perception is reality. The perception is that they're unwilling to listen and they're impersonal.
Right.
And if that's the tactic they're going to use, maybe they'll get some successes out of it. But in my experience, and our experience being currently in the middle of 40 days, and this will air after the end of the Fresno 40 Days campaign, our experience is the most successful tactic is to be compassionate and soft-spoken, and to be willing to listen.
Here's the really sad thing: is I've spent some time researching on good sidewalk counseling techniques. I haven't finished. I'm working on this big project to do a lot of research on this. So I've done about half of that. And one of the things that I learned was that while some women, theoretically, I mean, certainly from anecdotal stories, have turned around from yelling like that. Apparently, a lot of women, they basically chase them into the abortion clinic. Like, they're going into the abortion clinic for safety because they're like afraid of these weird yelling people outside, which is obviously the opposite of what the protesters trying to do.
Right. Well, and I think part of that is, while you might be able to, and it has happened, where you can change someone's mind by yelling at them. Because especially we have such a negative stereotype, and there's such a negative popular opinion of abortion protesters outside clinics not caring about women, that we have to make extra strives to be beyond fault, to be above reproach, that if you do yell, odds are it's going to be taken in an unloving way just because of the thoughts that people are fed or have and the perspectives that they have about our protesters out there.
I want to take about 20 seconds to say, one of the things, having worked at 40 Days for Life, having worked with former abortion facility employees who can give me, I mean, these people are encyclopedic in their understanding of how the young ladies coming in are, how the families are, how the people that work there are. Those who enter the people in an abortion clinic are trained to be like a family. And it's very easy for most abortion facility workers to do so because they come from families that are either not taking care of them or are really taking care of them. But the idea is that they understand this concept of family. And I say that because most abortion workers, according to the ones I've spoken to, are not in the abortion industry because they want to kill children. They're in the abortion industry, honest to goodness, because they want to help other women. Which means if we do not look kind, like a family, compassionate, and helpful, then we are literally yelling them into the abortion clinic, because right inside those doors they know there's someone that's going to listen.
And nothing unites like a common enemy. If they come into the clinic and the clinic, oh, I'm sorry, did those people yell at you? Yeah, we have trouble with them. They're very mean. You know, they have a connection and a common enemy, and we don't want to be the enemy.
Yeah, and clarification on what Kyle said. We're not. And this is kind of like when we talk about common ground. We're not just talking about acting like we're family, acting like we're kind and considerate. I'm saying actually try being kind and considerate.
Exactly.
It's going to work a lot better. Anyway, the video goes on. The woman asked him later on the video, "Are you recording this?" I guess she just now has noticed his cell phone out like this, that's what that means. And when he says, "I sure am," she turns away, like, "I don't want to be on camera." And he responds, "Well, oh, nice. You want to stand out in public, but you don't want to make public statements. How hypocritical!" This is real nice. I'd say if you want to be out there, I take the interview, but I mean, respond better. Anyway, it gets worse. One of the women's, this is like them trying to change this guy's mind. "Have you seen aborted babies?" He says, "I have seen," or he asks, have I seen aborted babies? I've seen pictures, thanks to pictures like you holding up severed heads of fetuses, because that's really effective. So that hasn't turned them around at all. She says, "Well, do you know how many women commit suicide after abortion?" And he says, "There's a lot of people who commit suicide for all kinds of reasons." And then the woman's response to that, "Love thy brother. Thank you."
That is such a bad response.
Like,
now,
if you're out of stuff to say, don't say anything.
No, I don't want to criticize these women. They're actually doing something active in the pro-life movement.
Yeah.
Okay, I give
Which
them
is
props. They're being
above 90% of the ones that can claim to be pro-life.
They're being attacked literally by this guy.
Well, when you say attacked, he's not threatening them or anything like that.
But they're being verbally attacked. It's very hard to come up with anything to say to someone who's just bulldozing over you.
I agree.
And so But even with that, even wanting to be very, very nice to these women, now is not the time